The Hidden Hindu, Book 1 of the trilogy by Akshat Gupta, Chapter 8, Cryptic Chest. It was a windy night. In the dark lobby, the only source of light was the swinging lamp at the end of the corridor. LSD bid Dr. Shahista good night and went to her room, which was huge, but it had a damp smell, though it was nicely decorated with ancient lamps and furniture. It seemed that it hadn't been used for a very long time. In the next room, Dr. Shahista was worried about her children. She sat on her chair and reclined, looking at the ceiling, while others were still settling in their rooms. With time, Dr. Shahista's eyes grew heavy, and soon she fell asleep. Late at night, she got up with a start as she saw a shadow outside the door and felt that somebody was walking outside her room. She quickly rose from the chair and opened the door to check outside. She walked to the end of the dark corridor and realized there was nobody there. All she heard was the sound of the waves. She turned back suddenly and found LSD standing there. Dr. Shahista screamed in fear. "What are you doing here?" LSD gasped. "I was feeling scared alone. I want to stay with you. Can I sleep in your room, please?" Dr. Shahista nodded in acceptance, wiping the sweat off her forehead. They both entered Dr. Shahista's room. LSD threw her bag on the couch and started unpacking. Dr. Shahista asked, "Did you hear someone walking around?" LSD replied with fear, "Yes, I saw somebody's shadow outside my window, but it was dark and I had my headphones on so I couldn't hear a thing. I'm glad I couldn't." She giggled. "I don't want to see or hear a ghost. I'm not comfortable at these old places. They are always haunted." Dr. Shahista put her glass of water back. She comforted LSD by contradicting her and said, "There's no such thing as ghosts." Curious, LSD asked, "I don't understand what were you doing outside?" Dr. Shahista bit back her story about the haunting shadow, as LSD was already frightened and said, "I am worried about my family and I want to speak to them, but it's too late at night." LSD tried to console Dr. Shahista. "Relax, I'm sure your family will be fine and we will be out of this very soon," she said, crossing her fingers. Dr. Shahista took a deep breath and walked to her bed. LSD put her glasses back, opened her screen, and interrupted the silence of the room as she clicked her laptop keys. Dr. Shahista fell asleep within no time. Meanwhile, Verbhadra had traveled to Port Blair, the capital of Andaman and Nicobar, in the dark of the night with two of his men in a speedboat to receive the delivery of the chest. As he received the chest, a pair of eyes witnessed him from a distance. Verbhadra headed back to Ross Island, followed by the unknown spy. The night passed. Shahista's sleep broke with a knock on the door, and she noticed an envelope in the room. She opened it and woke LSD up. The envelope had details regarding their session's timing. It was bright outside. Post-breakfast, Dr. Shahista and Dr. Batra walked to Dr. Srivasan's chamber, while the others proceeded to the interrogation room. Meanwhile, Verbhadra also entered Dr. Srivasan's room and looked around for Dr. Srivasan. He walked to him with two gunmen and two boxes in his hands. These were Om's lockers. "Open them right here," Dr. Srivasan ordered Verbhadra. Dr. Shahista and Dr. Batra were there for a discussion, so they also joined. As the boxes opened before them, they were left astonished. The boxes contained notes written even before history began, shaping itself and being recorded, kept on some faraway land, secured with pages. The pages were scribbled mostly in Sanskrit, apart from some that were in Hindi and Prakrit, an amalgamation of Pali and Sanskrit. They were not the pages that one saw today. They were copper sheets. Each sheet had a name engraved on it as header. There were the names Om had claimed to be his. The old kaul, accent stone pots used to crush and mix herbs, also emerged from the box, as also a few big, heavy finger rings, not seen or used today. Old and rare coins used for trade by various rulers, and more scripts jotted down in the Devanagari hand, and even Urdu Urdu surfaced. Sir, there's a piece of information I found in the locker. I personally secured it so as to hand it over to you directly, said Verbhadra. It's a map, sir, with some pieces of metal, a bottle of mercury, and a book. The book was wrapped in leaves and a white cloth, with bloodstains on it. The book had a metal cover and something carved on it. Dr. Butcher held the book in his hands and turned the pages. His eyes grew wide and his astonishment was obvious. As he saw a few diagrams in the book, he kept fumbling with his pages as if he was searching for something. He turned and looked towards Dr. Shrivansan, who stretched his hands forward as a signal. Dr. Butcher wanted to linger over the pages a while, but he handed the book to Dr. Shrivansan. Shall we proceed, if you're done? Said Dr. Shrivansan. Dr. Butcher looked at the metal block and the map. Dr. Shrivansan said, yes, it's a map, but a map of what and which kind? The man with the answer is right here, sitting inside the room. Let's ask him directly, suggested Shahista. No, not now. Don't let him know that we already have it in our custody. First, complete the list of questions you have prepared, Dr. Shrivansan commanded. Okay, sir, Shahista replied. Send LSD to me. Verbhadra, you stay with them. Shahista, don't start until I come back, Dr. Shrivansan said. They departed, nodding. As Dr. Shrivansan waited for LSD, Dr. Butcher almost ran and entered the room. He looked at Om, reflecting both anger and confusion, went back to his seat, and started working on the computer. Shahista walked over to Dr. Butcher and found him very worked up. He was curiously searching for something on his computer. Tej, what are you doing? She asked, concerned. Dr. Butcher kept working and didn't even look up from his screen. Are you okay? See, all of us are equally shocked and Shh. Dr. Butcher held up a hand, signaling Shahista to stay silent, and kept doing his work. Shahista felt offended but stood by his side for a few seconds and then turned around to leave. Dr. Butcher called her back. Shahista! She turned back, her eyes fixated on the screen. Look at this. Dr. Butcher shifted the monitor in her direction. What is this? She asked. Dr. Butcher started explaining it to her. Every cell in our body was tiny engines called mitochondria. They provide us with the energy we need. When these engines go down, our body starts aging and decaying. What is the point, Tej? The point is, if these mitochondria start rejuvenating, the body may live longer than the average human, Dr. Butcher went on. So you want to say that these tiny engines never went down in Om's body? Dr. Shahida tried to clear her head. Tej tried explaining in the other way around. Scientists today have formulated a way to extend the lifetime of yeast, which is normally about 6 days, to about 10 weeks. A tenfold increases, that is. And how is that related to our concern? Shahid was perplexed. Shahida, those 10 weeks are analogs to 800 years of a human life. When two genes, RAS2 and SCH9, were removed from its DNA, the yeast's longevity came as a consequence. The same genes, when removed from a mouse, doubled its lifespan too, Dr. Tej continued. So, asked Dr. Shahida, 60 different genes responsible for aging the human body have already been discovered. My concern is that science still has a long way to go before claiming that it can do the same with us humans, and my concern is contradictory to Ohm's claim. You still think of him as deceptive? Shahida asked. And then said after a short pause, see, Tej, I have many reasons not to trust him, but a hell of a lot of reasons not to question his credibility too. I need a sample of his blood, Dr. Butcher said with determination. Shahida slowly nodded. Dr. Shrivansan would never allow you to do that. Meanwhile, Dr. Shrivansan was talking to LSD in his cabin. He laid a map in front of her and said, Can you prove to me that you are indeed the best? You have 6 hours to solve this puzzle, which is to find the place in the map and where the spot leads us to. LSD loved challenges and accepted them all with open arms, as they allowed her to test her boundaries, to improve herself, and to make her even more proud of herself. Her eyes beamed with excitement. She took the map from him and turned around and walked out. Dr. Shervanson said in a rather hushed voice, "Keep this between us, LSD. Do not utter a word to anyone else. Your time starts now." After a while, Dr. Shervanson entered the interrogation room again.